So you know how a phone has a camera? Well, mine is bigger. Mine is 1 inch. Have a look at this. If this is a camera bump, then this is a whole camera planet. This is supposed to be so much better than your regular old peasant Pro Max Ultra phone. This is supposed to be the closest thing to a real camera. It even has Leica branding on it. So surely everyone should just get rid of their phones and just buy one of these, right? Well, there's a catch, and the only logical way to test that was to go to Poland. I took this phone to different locations such as the mountain. I can't wait to go, but first, what kind of travel is without a backpack? Which is why this video is sponsored by tomtoc. This backpack actually saved me. Check this out. Ooh, that's pretty nice. My favorite thing is that it fully opens flat like a suitcase. On this side, I can easily pack my 16-inch MacBook, and it has this super soft material. This section has a book, which I'll never read anyway. On the other side, I have clothes, but the nice thing is that you can also open it from the front, and this design makes packing so much easier because stuff doesn't get crushed at the bottom like every other backpack that I've owned. In the top pocket, I've packed my meta glasses, and the bottom pocket has my wallet, passport, and some earbuds. I would actually cry if I lost any of them. There's even a pocket at the very top which comes with a bag of candy. I'm kidding, I just put it there. But the real question is, does it look like I'm struggling right now? Of course not, because look at all the padding on the back. Even the straps are padded, which is good news for your spine. For once, I actually feel organized, so if you feel jealous, check the links in the description. I love waking up at 4 AM. It's great. Anyway, this is the Xiaomi 17 Ultra and it costs a lot of monies. If you look at the spec sheet, this thing is a monster. A 200 megapixel mechanical optical zoom sensor, a 1-inch low-thick main sensor, Leica ultra pure optical design, what does that even mean? 6000 milliamp hour battery and an 8 Elite Gen 5. This phone's specs are like 10 years ahead, so the best way to start is with the camera. This footage at 5 AM looks pretty good until... Wait, go back. Okay, so much better. Okay, I realize that the ultra-wide sensors are supposed to be worse than the main sensors, but this ultra-wide is literally smaller than the one on the Samsung S25 Ultra. So the quality difference between the main sensor and the ultra-wide is massive. Like, look at this, 1 second it's cinematic and the next second it looks like ass. The difference should not be this massive. Like, I don't know why they use such a small ultra-wide compared to other phones. If you have a good look at the camera bump, you realize that it doesn't really make sense. So these three things are the actual sensors, and this looks like it would have been a sensor, but there's actually nothing there. So I looked at a teardown video and I think that this is just extra space for that zoom sensor. So there isn't actually anything there. So it feels kind of misleading thinking that the whole thing is some massive camera when in reality, it's just designed to look like this. Speaking of that camera bump, people say it's kind of comfortable to lean your finger on it as if it's like a pop socket or something. But I just think that it keeps getting in the way. Like when I hold the phone, my finger keeps bumping against it. And this is gonna sound like such a nitpick, but do you see this camera here? That's the ultra wide. And because it's so close to the bottom, when you hold the phone like this, like even like that, the finger gets in the way all the time. I know it's not a big deal, but why did I put the ultra wide at the bottom? At least when you put it on a flat surface, it doesn't really, oh, I guess it does, but it kind of just looks like a ramp and it's kind of flat. If all you want to do is just zoom into things, this phone is crazy. I mean, look how close I can get to this screen. This is probably like 20x zoom and it was pretty bumpy and I could still spy on these people. And when I got off the coach, I knew it was perfect time to show you the camera app. So this phone has a mechanical zoom that goes from 3.2x to 4.3 without any digital crop, which I don't really understand because on the Samsung you have 1x, 3x and 5x, and on the iPhone you have 1x and 5x. So what are you really gaining from having 3x and 4x? How does that really help you? Anyway, I noticed that the sun was out, which means it was the perfect time to test this new feature called low-thick. Basically, it's kind of like HDR, but instead of using software to combine a bunch of shots, it's using the actual sensor to get crazy dynamic range. So in practice, You're supposed to have really good dynamic range, but without the artifacting and ghosting. I was super excited to find this in the video settings, and when I tested it against my S25 Ultra, wait a minute. Am I missing something? Why does Samsung actually look better? The sun is less overexposed, the buses are brighter, there's a nice warm glow on the road, whereas the Xiaomi almost looks black and white. So then I took a picture instead, and kind of the same thing happened. The only difference is that now there's more detail on the Xiaomi, but overall I kind of prefer the Samsung shot. It just kind of looks more realistic. At this point I was confused, but even more so I was a little disappointed, because why is this thing not blowing me away? As I was eating my breakfast I wanted to check on my flight, but oh no, this screen is like 3 miles away. Not like this thing is designed to zoom or anything. And when I did, I was surprised how clear all the text looked. And I thought, this would probably look absolutely disgusting on a Samsung. So I did the same thing and I didn't really see a difference. But then I took a picture on both just to make sure, and dare I say I actually kind of preferred the Samsung? What is going on? When I boarded the plane, I was really excited to record the window for the 50th time in my life. And when I did, I noticed some strange behavior on the Xiaomi. There was so much banding and glitching, and I promise I didn't press anything, but the phone would just randomly up the exposure for no reason and destroy the shot. I did this a couple times just to make sure it wasn't a fluke, and it did the same thing every time. It's probably something to do with the shutter speed, but I don't know. I'm just a guy. I didn't change any settings. On Samsung, there was some banding, but it was nowhere near as bad. And I deliberately tried to confuse the exposure, but it simply refused to fail. And it kept the exposure perfect, like a good boy. At this point, I was genuinely worried because I kind of sort of didn't like this camera, but hopefully things change when I land the plane. Now let me tell you something, I am not a fan of how phones process the images nowadays. Everything just seems to be over processed and over sharpened, and luckily on Samsung you can go to Photo Enhancer and change this to balance, which basically removes a lot of the over processing. And then in Camera Assistant you can go to photo softening and put that on high, which basically removes the over sharpening. And on the Xiaomi, well, take this picture for example. What the hell is all this over processing? It's over sharpened, the colors are way off, everything feels way off. And before you ask, yes, I did try both Leica Authentic and Leica Vibrant, and I also went into the settings and I removed all of this AI crap that over processes the images. So if that's over processed without AI, then what the hell is AI supposed to do? Not to say that every shot sucks, because sometimes it genuinely looks better, but only by like 10%. And there's more background blur, like, okay. And then look at this. This shot looks a lot better on Xiaomi, but that's 200 megapixels versus 50 megapixels. The size of this zoom sensor is like 3 times bigger than the one on Samsung. And the file size is over 120 megabytes. So when would I ever use this? And look at this 100x zoom shot. It's only a little bit better on Xiaomi. So how is it possible that the specs are like 10 times better, but somehow the results are only like 10% better? I wouldn't mind if these phones were comparable on paper, but the 1-inch sensor is the main selling point, and for some reason I'm still playing with preferences. I think it's a little bit disappointing, but hopefully it all changes with the next destination. Good morning, Walt. You look good even at 30 times zoom. And this day was gonna be special because we were going to the mountain to do some more camera testing. These mountains look so pretty. We're getting close to the mountain. Turns out that this was the lookout point to see the mountain, not to actually climb the mountain. But to carry this disappointment, I recorded this clip in log just to find out that Xiaomi applies sharpening to their log video. This is a very scuffed comparison, but you can clearly tell that stuff is way more sharpened than on Samsung. The only reason that I shoot log on Samsung is to escape that stupid processing and sharpening, and Xiaomi just ruins log as well. Why are you tampering with log footage? What is wrong with you? So I think low thick is supposed to be good with fire, so let me test that.
That was a joke.
Okay, but when I actually recorded the fire, it still looked the same. What am I even looking at? Anyway, I almost forgot that this isn't just a camera and there's a little bit of phone here. Now don't get me wrong, this battery is massive at 6000 milliamps. It charges super quick at 90 watts, but it feels like that's basically every phone nowadays. So it's kind of hard to be impressed with these specs, especially when there's phones with like 75, 8000 milliamps nowadays. And camera is not the only problem, because I also have a problem with the software. This is gonna sound so incredibly stupid, but do you see this home screen? Instagram has 6-7 notifications, but I can just hold it and it lets me delete it. But with settings, I get that I'm not allowed to uninstall it, but at least can I get rid of it? Holding doesn't work. Dragging it to the top also doesn't work. Am I supposed to drag it to the next screen or something? I am sure there's an easy way to do this, but why am I having to do research for such a simple task? Or just look at this widgets section. Why is there so much junk on here? There's AI, there's game recommendations, more AI. And then if you look up something as simple as a clock, why are there like 20 results with different clocks? How am I supposed to know which one is the real one or the OG good one? So I just don't like how unpolished and cluttered the whole software is. So you might say that I'm complaining a little bit too much here, but you have to remember that this is a £1,300 phone. And for that amount of money, I expect this phone to feed me grapes in bed. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that Samsung is just objectively a better phone and a better camera, because that's straight up wrong, but this kind of feels like a toy rather than a full, complete, polished phone. And yes, the camera hardware is literally like 10 years ahead. It is so much better. And the ceiling for how good the photos and the videos can get is a lot higher, especially if you use some third-party camera apps. And then speaking of, this is Blackmagic camera app, and I can use the 1x lens, the 3x lens, but I don't get to use that 4.3x lens, and then I'm actually not able to record and log. So wait a second, I thought this was a camera phone. So given how much better this hardware is, I expected a little bit more than just slightly better. And I'm gonna sound so dramatic when I say this, but during the trip, I actually used my Samsung to take pictures more than the Xiaomi, because although the photos look boring, they look safe. And I knew that there wouldn't be some kind of crazy AI processing. I knew that I could rely on this without the exposure messing up. And I knew that I could record, log, and not have the footage sharpened. I know I'm complaining a lot, but for this price, I can complain. I'm just praying that this is not the same case on all the other Chinese phones like the Oppo Find X9 Ultra and the Vivo X300 Ultra, because those phones look crazy on paper. In fact, Vivo's ultra-wide sensor is literally bigger than the main sensor on the S25 Ultra. I appreciate all the hype behind this, because it is truly impressive to have all of this hardware in here, but this just kind of feels like the phone you buy, test out for a bit, think, oh, this is fun, and then you just go back to something more reliable. It was really fun to test this phone, and I'm definitely not switching to it. I just don't trust this enough to be my daily phone. And you know what? Maybe bigger isn't always better.